Hi, this is another GMP Detox session. We will do something else now. I would say that you also might have a view on the clip before this one was issued. I was talking about an article of Bob McDowall about CSA, and there's also a very nice section about critical thinking. A lot of people are using that term critical thinking, and we would also find here the FMEA methodology according ICHQ 9 and others. And I think it's worth to talk about a little bit about critical thinking and the so-called risk-based approach, which is not very often used in a good way, so that you get any outputs there from your risk assessment which are of value for you. So let's try to get on a focus for data integrity, and Bob was so nice to the community at LinkedIn to share another article, which is also absolutely brilliant. It's from October 2024. The CSA one is from November 2024. I don't know when Bob is writing that, but thanks so much. So that was in Spectroscopy Online published. Also, good sign, it has a DOI number. And can we simplify data process mapping? So even the CSA or also CSV is using terms like validation and fit for the intended use. And I start every project with a kind of, I would say, process first approach. So first have a view on the process and try to understand that process. The things that we find in data integrity problems often come from validated systems. So basically they have been wrongly validated because the data flow or the process flow was never analyzed correctly. Maybe one of the reasons is that we strictly believe still in a kind of hierarchy of documents like the site master file and master SOPs or policies and SOPs and work instructions, and then we have the records, forms, templates, whatever. We think a lot about that thing in terms of documentation. Some advantages within an ISO structure is that they put first the process, and that they also design their quality management systems with kind of a process landscape and then detailed processes and so on. And this idea also would enable critical thinking, risk assessments, or to identify the risks and to get the system functions that you need to reduce the risk. So data integrity risks are very often in manual transcriptions between paper and an electronic system and vice versa and so on. These are the data integrity risks. And yes, it's a part of computer system validation. I never divided that. So it comes in one thing, and it's not needed to have whatever a department for computer system validation, a department about data integrity and so on. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I also got another very interesting article by Bob. It looks like a session only about Bob, but that was pretty cool to me, and it was a new English word. It's called the USB sneaker net. And this is very simple. If you look on something like this, you have an analytic instrument and a computerized system or anything like this. And the USB sneaker net is you have a USB stick and you transfer the data into another system manually, for example, to LIMS or to whatever data storage somewhere on the network, which might be backed up or something like this. The conclusion here is pretty simple, and I will go through that very quickly as summary. Don't use USB sticks in lieu of instrument interfacing. USB transfer should not be used. Alternatively, are you going to take the Clint Eastwood approach to risk management with SneakerNet? So again, very nice language. Also with kind of humor, but very cool. But we go back to data processing, data process mapping. And this is also a very nice article. He's talking about an APEC methodology. So I would call it follow the data. Map the business processes, identify systems and records. And that's a plural. There are systems within that. Usually your validation should not stop at the system borders. Always look on the entire process. And there could be that different systems are working together and they are even not interfaced to each other in a technical way, but on a procedural way. And don't use the USB sneaker net. Very simple. Okay. Also, it's not efficient. Sorry. No. Okay. So, and here, Bob is showing a data process mapping example. So he's coming from the analytical area. So this is in QC, sample preparation, set up the instruments, measure the sample, calculate results, result to LIMS or e-sign them or in a LIMS database or in the data warehouse or wherever it is put or even in the ERP system sometimes. But sometimes I see a validation plan and then it's saying the process description, a separate section. And what I see is there a technical map, technical figure showing where the hardware, software, the scanners are and so on. But we talk about the data process, the data flow. This is what it's about. And then you go through that step by step through each of the phases. You have a view on what people are doing. And this is what is meant by critical thinking. Yeah. Like here, are user roles defined and all users have unique IDs? No, all users share a single account with admin privileges. No attribution of actions. Oh dear. Okay, he's describing that very nicely, and he's going there step by step through each phase of this modeling approach, also with vulnerabilities of data integrity and the classification. And this is much more efficient, like you would use the FMEA methodology. That's the wrong methodology for process mapping, data flow mapping, or whatever. So this is also a very nice article. I will, and here again, great, huh? this is Bob, Titanic at iceberg.com. That's a cool email address. Yeah, you are out of compliance, fix it now. Very nicely written. Yeah, okay. And even here, always the figures and the summary. Okay, and then the summary is this column has conducted a practical review of one data process mapping example and has highlighted some practical changes that were made to improve it instead of performing a formal risk assessment. And that's very important. Not using an FMEA because it's defined in the SOP. Once the data process mapping exercise has highlighted any data vulnerabilities and business inefficiencies, not easy words for a German or Swabian. So these can be scheduled for remediation. Yes, Wonderful article. So in practical terms, we do it very similar. And this is sometimes if I read something from an expert and I find out, oh, we do it very similar to that. So you don't see here a FMEA methodology or something like this. Usually we start to get some master data of the system, what kind of system it is. Is it in the production area, in the warehouse? How is it designed? Does it generate GMP records? If yes, which ones? Is it a standalone system, critical? Is it file-based system? Does it have a rational database, whatever? What are the printouts used for the certificate of analysis? So I didn't want to make too much of this tick box mentality, but that you just get a good overview to have all these important things in. Bob in this article is doing it similar, asking these kind of questions. You also find it in here, which are best practice and defined in DI guidances and so on. But this is something that is quite very interesting, a data flow assessment, and this is very, very similar like this with the phases, going through these different phases. We created a form for that. There's also here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phases. We have done that in a very generic way. On the left, you find the instruction types, on the right, the record types, and in the middle, the so-called raw data. And so if we have a new or an existing process or system in front of us, we go also through that process following the data. So who it is initiating it. So it's you register a sample, for example. There's a procedure for that. Maybe there's an SOP instruction. And a little difference is that we also say what happens between these lines. Is it a manual transfer? Is it automated? Is it a system internal transfer? Do I enter manual parameters by myself? Or do I have a fixed recipe, a program, a method that is defined and that can't be changed, for example? Can I change data? Then again, a transfer of the data, then the processing. Here, that's a good example. Yeah, it's a little bit nasty, isn't it, to have an Excel sheet here? Should not have one, but it's a good example. The processing done by a different system, copy and paste. Is it automated or how is it done? And is it then put on a printout or does someone do a manual transfer of the data? So very similar. I was happy about that. You see, they're also following some of these questions, like you have seen that in the article. Does each individual have an own account? Are there roles defined? Is there a segregation of duties? Is there IT security policy? Minimum password lengths, the change period of passwords, auto log off, blah, 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 and the backup procedures. And if you go and analyze a system and especially a process on that basis, then you come exactly to that point where you have it here. Sorry, I must find it. Put simply, you are out of compliance, fix it, define actions, and do it now. Very simple. I remembered that we have written something similar, data integrity flow, follow the data. It was written by myself and Bob together. I can't remember, 2016, 17, something like this. You will find the same stuff. This article, you must pay for it. But basically it's exactly very similar to this one. So have a view on that. Data and process mapping. Sometimes I also use SciPoc for process mapping. That's not easy. So I try to give you an overview. We are already in 25 minutes just to give you an overview. But let me know if you have questions. It's not easy, but this is a starting point for critical thinking. So what happens if I do this, and what is the consequence? That's a cause-effect thing. I think that was also something that we should highlight. Not always to use the FMA methodology. What is critical thinking with a self-reflection? Also during a project, why not? Can always learn. Okay, thanks so much. I hope you liked it. I'm thinking about to do more things about process mapping. But that's it for today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.